Welcome back to Crusade with me, the podcast that's all about marching through life's battles with faith, fire, and a whole lot of grace. I'm so glad you're here, whether you're in your car, on a walk, or maybe just stealing a quiet moment in the middle of a chaotic day. This time is for you. Well, hello, my queen.
Hey there, hi there, oh there. We're as happy as can be.
I'm glad to hear that. We are completely discombobulated today, are we not?
It's going to throw the whole week off.
No, it's not. No, it's not. You know what? I believe it's good to change things up every now and again.
Yep.
And we have certainly broken our routine,
And so
which is dangerous.
Yeah.
Which is very
That's
dangerous.
what I'm saying. It's going to throw the week off. So worth it.
But it was absolutely worth it. So we are actually recording this on Sunday, and I think most people are aware that we generally record our episodes always on a Saturday.
Yeah.
But we had some commitments, and I'm so glad that we've made our commitments. It sounded like, anyway, but we were able to spend some quality time and with about driving 3 or 4 hours in each direction. We were able to spend some quality time with watching our granddaughter compete in sorting. And if no one is listening know what sorting is, that's where they take calves, and put them in a pen, and they're all numbered.
There's 8 of them.
You have to go in the pen on your horse, and there's a gate that's 12 foot wide, and another person has to sit on their horse and use the horse as the gate, and they have to get the cows in the next pen over just by driving them, by sorting them out, right?
Yeah.
Number by number, and they get called out what number you have to go after next or first.
They call the first number.
Right, and then you have to
start
go
with that one, and then you take them sequenced in order after that number. Yeah. It is quite entertaining. It's dirty. You will end up with dirt because they get their horses to stop on a dime.
Well, there's a lot of,
And there's a lot of noise, yelling. Because they use not only their horses, they use their voices.
I had a blast.
And
it was an absolute blast. And the icing on the cake was watching my sweet pea. You know, I mean, my sweet pea is only 10.
Yep. This is her 3rd year.
And this is her 3rd year sorting. And
she's the youngest one there.
Well, there was a young girl there. Okay. I don't remember that other girl who also competed on a national stage. But
between those two girls, there's probably a 10.
Do you think that the girl's 10? I don't know.
No. I was going to say the age gap between those two girls.
Yes.
Between Sweet Pea and that other little girl.
Right.
There's probably at minimum a 10-year age gap between the next youngest.
At least 10 years.
The others are probably all in their 30s.
And then Jim is, I'm sure he's 49?
You're being generous.
Her trainer.
Yes. I mean, and
I don't mean to be trainer. I don't know what title he's the horse whisperer. He's the horseman.
Yeah, he is.
He truly is.
Sweet Pea's trainer.
Yes.
But they, yesterday's show, which kind of the end of the season, because they do this all winter long, and then Sweet Pea does, regular, she does different, she does
Western
English,
pleasure
and English writing, through the summer. So they did this finale. One of their members, who was an older gentleman, he had passed away. So they did this Buckle and Spur series competition yesterday. So they actually had like a big pot of money to the winner.
Winnings. Top three. And our Sweet Pea came in number 4 out of 35 teams.
Yep, teams, which is 2. Yeah.
Right. So interesting sport. It is a very interesting sport. I wish it was more on a, and it might be, and I'm just not aware of it. I don't know. I mean, obviously, you don't tune in to ESPN and see sorting on the Olympics.
Right.
But and maybe I'm wrong. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
Anyway, had a great time. We were. Look, I'm just trying to report as I hear it and see it. Right. Between us, there were. It was a heavily Hispanic, right? And the place that it was held at was a lovely family who are obviously Hispanic. And what a phenomenal day. I mean, they were just so pleasant, so welcoming, so...
Oh, yes.
You know what I'm saying?
They served food.
They served food. They wouldn't take any money for the food. I mean, they,
Yes, they were just so pleasant. And and this, I know you think that this is kind of expected, but I always tell you all the time out in the world, this doesn't happen. And so when it does, I get all excited about it. But when our daughter introduced us to one of the sons who runs this competition, and his father was there sitting on a big, tall, beautiful horse. He had to have been 18 hands plus.
Yes. And that's I can't remember what they said the breed was, but it is a Spanish dancing horse.
Right. He takes it to Chicago to
the parades.
Anyways, he sat on this horse through the whole thing, and he just kept walking by going, eat, eat, eat.
Yes.
They were doing street tacos.
Oh, fabulous.
I wanted one way too late. It was over, and I never got one. But anyways, so when our daughter introduced us.
Okay, not just the street tacos, but they made some delicious drinks with tequila. Okay, I had several
top
of those.
Shelf, yeah.
I don't know about that. I don't know. I don't know enough about tequila to know what's top shelf and what's not.
Patron is a very expensive, and I don't know how many bottles they went through, but
a bunch
is
phenomenal weekend. We had a blast.
So I'm going to wrap up that story.
I interrupted you.
So when our daughter introduced us to the zero that was running the thing, I was just I just found joy in my heart that this young man.
And he's just a young man.
He's a young man in his 30s.
I think 20s or 30s, yeah.
I always do this when I'm introduced to someone or I introduce myself to someone. I always stand up and I'm blown away, especially by doctors. I don't know why, but I always stand up and I extend my hand, and 9 times out of 10 they don't stand up, and that I don't know why that rubs me the wrong way. I guess because I'm big on manners. But
next time use your line from True Grit. Keep your seat, trash. I would love for you to say that to a doctor. I would love. I will
have to remember that.
Absolutely.
So anyway, that's just what I grew up knowing that you're supposed to do. You're supposed to rise. You're not supposed to.
You're never supposed to, as a man, and that doesn't apply to women. That rule doesn't apply. You can shake a hand while seated. A man should absolutely never shake a hand while he is seated.
Right.
He is to always stand up.
So Cyril, he had a hat on. He's a cowboy.
Yep.
So as I'm rising, he got up. He stood up, took his hat off, and shook my hand. Mm-hmm. Hallelujah. I love it. I love it. I love a chivalrous man. You are, and you set the bar high, and you raised our son to be the same way, and he is that way, and our grandsons are being done the same way. I mean, both of our grandsons hold the door open, take care of my mother, make sure she's in the car. And I love it. So
they better.
Just wanted to point that out. Yeah.
And I say they better. They do it
with a wonderful
enthusiastically.
Heart.
Yes,
they do.
They
don't want to be so helpful.
Yes, they do. Both of them.
Yes.
Both of them. No, you're right. No, so yeah, we spent a lot of time in the car driving yesterday, and then we spent a lot of time in a barn. And I know that's not our normal MO. Just had a blast. Just absolute blast. I want to go back. We're going to go back in June, close to the end of June. They're going to have a rodeo that I want to go to. And my sweet pea's not like doing anything in the rodeo. I'm talking about we are going to go, and I'm sure that Princess and the devil she married, Matt.
Oh, she's rejoicing when she hears that. I just want to point out too that Bubba, our grandson, he hit us up for merch because I was wearing
Yes.
a Crusade
Yes.
with Me sweatshirt,
Right.
and he said, "Mimi, I need one of those T-shirts. I want that in a T-shirt." And then Jim's wife, Tanya, he's like, "And Tanya needs a sweatshirt."
He's
said-
always looking out for her. He
he's-
calls her his girlfriend.
Yes, it's very innocent.
Yes, I know.
He said, "So can you get me one of those?" I'm like, "Look, I don't run a merch department here." I said, "But I'll see what I can do." He says, "Oh, and then my sister needs one too." Oh, okay. So maybe
always-
I should put him in charge of the merch.
Yeah, he's
department.
always looking out for himself and others.
And others.
He's not just right.
So our non-existent merch department is in the hole. Buy 2 T-shirts.
Well, we
and a sweatshirt.
have merchandise managers.
Yes. Yeah,
Right?
Yeah. I told him, talk to your uncle.
And aunt. I mean, I think
Yeah.
the aunt. Don't
Well,
talk to uncle. That might not happen.
He takes
talk to the aunt. I
orders.
think.
Yeah.
she'll get
do
it
the
done.
work. Yeah. So, yeah. I thought that was cute.
Yeah. No. So yeah, it just look and I have been diligent in my taking care of my temple, exercising. I am sore,
I've been watching you. Yeah.
but it's a good trend. It's a good thing. You know what? And I don't care where you're at out there. Start your trend. Have your trend be today. Just today is a good day to start a trend.
Yep.
And so I just wanted to share that. And then I know you've been doing several things from our podcast last week that kind of got you thinking and kind of put into practice, so to speak.
Yeah. Some personal things you challenged me to do, and I checked the boxes.
Checkbox.
Checked them off my list. Got them done, which is, I can kind of be a procrastinator.
Can't we all? I mean, I really.
Well, I can't hear you. It's kind of.
Well, okay. Let's go back to yesterday.
Well, wait. Let me
Okay,
finish.
okay.
So the thing I hate to do the most is talk on the phone and
get
schedule appointments and take care of that. And so I put it off as long as possible.
But I thought you
just
found
hate
success
it.
by using your earbuds.
Yes, and again, like hearing aids, they're not perfect.
No, I know, but they do.
Yeah.
My only complaint is this caused a little condescension last week. When she's on her phone with her earbuds, she talks so loud.
We're not gonna have this conversation. Because when my hearing aids are working, I have to take them out when you and Andrew are on the phone together. So you're the last one to talk, buddy boy.
Well, I talk loud by nature naturally.
Uh-huh.
Now, you don't talk like Mrs. G, excuse me, not Mrs. T.
Gee,
That's her first name. Mrs. G at a freaking whispers. Is it she's just screwing with me? When I say, what did you say? That she actually gets softer. I swear to you, she does that. I've said, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. And she'll say it again, and I swear she gets softer the second time after I said, I can't hear you.
I don't know.
I bet you do. The look on your face is.
I don't know. I don't know. I'll have to pay attention.
But anyway, yeah. So we've got some things done, and feels good.
It feels good.
Even in work, I ended up. I'm not going to have to go in on a third shift here for a long while. I think now.
Yeah.
Got those done this last week, and
That's twice in a month.
we've got every manufacturing employee, staff, and employees out on the floor trained in basic CI lean, really TPS, Toyota Production Systems. We've got them all trained. And we have seen significant improvements in a couple of work cells, a couple of area departments since we did the first training. And then we just concluded broke it up into 2 phases because no matter how we do it, it's kind of like drinking out of a fire hose. It's a lot of information. And so we thought, okay, because we were going to do it in one fell swoop in 4 hours. They said that's probably not fair. And
People's attention spans are so short.
There's that.
Mine is.
There's that, which is sad. And I'm not saying I'm not. But this is what, and it's our society today, and it's just. Remember when we went to the Abraham Lincoln Library and Museum in Springfield, Illinois? Which any listener, if you're in the Midwest, I highly recommend. That is a full day and maybe 2 days. Well, okay, for me it could be a full 2 days. But okay, it could be at least a full day. It really can be a full day. But
if you have stamina to.
I will spend a quality amount of time in a bookstore and gift shop. Especially in that setting. But anyway, absolutely phenomenal museum and library there. And I was reading, they have a lot of newsprints, original newsprints from the time right before he became president to actually when he became president, then all through the Civil War, obviously. And the number of times that the news people were upset, like one of his most famous speeches that Abraham Lincoln ever gave was the Gettysburg Address, right? After the Battle of Gettysburg. And they were so upset. They were used to hearing, it's the oratory skill. They would have speeches for multiple hours. And when they held debates, the debates were multiple hours. And how upset and thought how disrespectful it was for him to have this very poignant but yet brief Gettysburg Address. Isn't it amazing? Could you imagine trying to have a 2 or 3 hour speech now?
No.
You would have nobody.
No.
We're a very limited.
No. Well, because now we're picking apart people for the color of the suits that they wear to a funeral.
Yeah. Well, whatever.
Yeah.
So anyway, can we re-rail, my love? Instead of batting your baby blues at me, we need to re-rail back to, so today's episode is called Grace in the Grind. This is episode 54 called Grace in the Grind. Because let's be honest, life can feel like a grind sometimes, right? The laundry piles up. The bills roll in. The grandkids are loud, or what the boss is demanding. And you're just trying to make it to bedtime. You know what I'm saying? How many times in my life have I felt this way? Look, I'm just trying to get through this day and get to bed.
Yes.
But I want to focus on this. I want to tell everybody, you don't have to just survive it. So let's look at 2 Corinthians 12:9. And Paul writes, "But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you. For my power is made perfect in your weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly of my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me." Now that's powerful. God's not waiting for us to get it together before he helps us out. He's right there in the mess, in the grind, in the overwhelmedness, and I don't even know if that's a word or not, but
When did we start waiting for
yeah, I know.
for words to be in existence?
His grace shows up in the dishes, in the doctor's office, in the late night worry. And that's where his power lives. So let's get real. I like to talk real talk. Have you ever felt, and we've had this conversation, as a married couple, we need to have this conversation, but we've had this conversation. And this September, it'll be 39 years.
Yes.
We've been married. Have you ever felt like you're just going through the motions?
Oh, sure. Sometimes, yeah.
Like your efforts don't matter? Right?
Yeah.
You're not alone. You're not alone. But God sees everything, right?
Dinga.
Yes. So nothing's wasted. That, for the younger folks, that diaper change, and maybe not so younger folks, anyway. That overnight shift, that time you bit your tongue instead of lashing out, he sees it. That's grace for that moment. And strength, too. So how do we apply that? How do we get that into our lives? Here's some tips. And I think people are going to figure this out pretty quick. My tips never change. And there's a reason behind that.
We're going to exercise it out.
We're going to start with Scripture. Tip number 1. Even one verse in the morning can change your whole mindset, right? How many times have I said this? Try writing 2 Corinthians 2:19 on a sticky note and put it on the fridge. Just something. Number 2, a breath prayer. When stress rises, stop and say, God, I receive your grace for this moment. And tip number 3, and this is where I struggle the most, but we got to get it. Celebrate the small victories, the small wins. Every act of love is a victory, so don't discount them. Have you ever had a time in your life when you felt like there's nothing left in the tank?
Mm-hmm.
Exhausted, discouraged, barely holding it together? But in that moment, that's where God's grace is sufficient. And I can think of a plethora of times in my personal life that has happened. And I know you can too.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want the listeners to think about that. When you get that phone call, and, I guess modern day convenience is we know who it is before we pick it up nowadays, right?
Right.
That wasn't always the way it was.
No.
But when you see that, you're like, but you take that phone call anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you start by I have, and you're just going through the motions, right, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But then it goes down a different path. And then your mindset starts to change. then your heart starts to change. And there's a beauty in that, and there's a beauty in the fact that that conversation had fruit that I never saw coming.
Yes.
That is God's grace.
Mm-hmm.
And that was not because the situation changed immediately, but because I did.
Mm-hmm.
And God's grace showed up. Do you have any thoughts of relating to God's grace?
I'm thinking back to the beginning, what you said about that God is always present. It's we who tap into God. It's not we're waiting
Right.
for God
He's there.
to be present.
He's there.
We have to understand that it's us. I mean, he is the I am. He's always been here. Reckoning back to that conversation with our granddaughter about, well, you know, when was Christ, or when was God born? When,
Right,
you know,
right,
when was he
right.
created? He
Always.
grabbing that comprehension of he just always was. I know it's, you know, one of those mysteries, but same idea. I've been in one of those knee buckling situations where
Mm-hmm.
the rug's pulled out from underneath you and my knees literally buckled, and physically I had you to grab me, but
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
tapping into God because I chose to lean into him.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a good analogy that you point out, that he is always here. The great
Always,
I am.
yes.
I am here. But you have to do the
And
asking.
I don't
for
want
the
to confuse
grace.
people, so I'm reluctantly even going to talk about this or say this.
Uh-oh.
You know, several years ago, I went down a different path with the Daoist path. So, and I'm going to tell you something. That's something I feel like they have right. You know, when last week and Holy Week, and then we just finished the first full Sunday full week of the Eastertide. And the first followers of Christ referred to them as people who followed the way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is very interesting because the Tao, translated from Chinese, is the way, and they are not related. All right, I want to be clear, they're not related. However, they do believe that it is a divine energy / something. They don't want to give it that much. I guess this is one thing that I'm going to go off on a tangent here for just a second. Couple things. One is I'm getting really tired and frustrated of people, and it's all people. Why is it that we have to put titles and labels on everything? You know what I'm saying? And so even when we talk about religion, so I am Protestant. Well, there's like 33,000 different variations of Protestant, or I'm Catholic, or I'm Orthodox, or I'm Jewish, or I'm, we love putting these labels. I wonder if God has those labels.
No.
Thank you. I know. I agree.
We're just all his children.
Correct. So there's value in some of the things that I learned. And one thing that I think the Taoists look at and do right is that the Tao is in and part of everything. We need to think about God in that way.
Right.
God is, because I feel like many times as quote unquote Christians, and I'm saying quote unquote Christians, meaning whatever group you want to subjugate yourself under in that large overarching title of Christian, whether it's Orthodox, Roman Catholic or Lutheran, whatever. We sometimes make God small.
Right. A lot of times, yes.
And that's a tragedy.
It is.
That's a tragedy. And I wish that they, and we'll do an episode on this eventually. I'm pretty convinced I want to do that, is comparing the Tao and Christianity and some things that the Tao talks about and teaches that I think are very beneficial to Christians, to kind of put things into perspective. And this is one of them, that as Christians, whatever you are, and I don't care, we tend to make God small.
Yeah. Do you think that the focus is so much on our hearts when it comes to God, and that maybe we need to focus more our minds? Is what's keeping us suppressed almost. Our minds need to be more open.
I absolutely. Oh, yes, you were right on the money there. Our minds are, because we know what we've been, and I'm going to use a word, and I probably piss people off, but I don't know a better word to use. And I'm going to say we've all been indoctrinated.
Right.
We've all been indoctrinated with something, some semblance of truth, or somebody else's interpretation of truth, right? And so now that makes us predisposed, right? Mm-hmm. Now we have a predisposition of, okay, so we got to see God, we got to go to church on Sunday. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to talk about my Lutheran faith, right? I bow at the altar because even whether we're having the sacrament of the altar or not, I truly do believe that that's where Christ's body and blood resided from last week to this week. At some point, he was present there. Mm-hmm. And for that reason alone, I will bow to that for reverence. Mm-hmm. But that's not the only place he's at.
Right.
And I think we forget that. Mm-hmm. He created us. We are his children. Just as our children have DNA from both of us in them, mm-hmm. we have God's DNA in us. Mm-hmm. And that's what this is about. In the grind, when we feel like shit, when we're down and out, mm-hmm. God's there. Mm-hmm. God's grace is sufficient.
Well, we've experienced that. So I'm not bashing religion. Absolutely not. It's a part of my life.
Absolutely. No, and I don't, and I want to be clear, I'm not either.
I know you're not, but I just think that, again, we've experienced this in our life coming from different backgrounds of
Christian beliefs.
Right. It's all the focus of the warm, fuzzy, tingly, winglies, whatever you want to call them.
Yep.
And
that's dangerous.
Yes.
Very.
And God doesn't just reside there.
No.
In that warm, fuzzy place. No. And God isn't just about mercy and grace. There's also this other part where he gets angry. And
I hope we've shown plenty of examples of this.
Right. So you have to take what's in your right hand and what's in your left hand, and they have to fold together, which also happens to form a praying set of praying hands, I might add. So you have to have both. You have to have love and mercy, and you have to have a little fire and brimstone.
I will say, I don't even know if I want to call it fire and brimstone.
I didn't know what to call it, but
I'm going to call it, you got to have some of that love and mercy, and then you have to have some of the way.
Some of the way, right.
The way.
And I'm thinking that what's in the left hand is going to come from the mind. You got to open your mind because you can't just work on emotions.
No.
You've got to have some knowledge.
That will get you in big trouble, working on emotions only.
The knowledge is what's going to make God bigger.
Absolutely. You're right. And I guess that is what, it just struck me as we were getting ready to wind down here, and we're talking about God's grace and grace in the grind. Mm-hmm. And I thought, I just have to say this, that why do we grind? Why do we have these grinds? Maybe we're just kind of looking at it wrong, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe we're looking at it wrong. But anyway. So, friends, this week, as you move through your grind, know this. God's grace is already there. You don't have to earn it. Just receive it. 2 Corinthians 12:9. My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Let that verse carry you when your strength runs out. Thank you for crusading with me today. If this encouraged you, share it with friends who's in the grind too. We're in this together, and we're not giving up. We're rising up with grace. And until next time, as always, crusade with me.